Imagine discovering that the core operating system running millions of devices across the globe, like the absolute bedrock software everyone just trusts.
Right.
Imagine finding out it was actually written by some rogue, anonymous hacker and not the legendary tech giant who claims it.
That would be wild.
It really would. And, well, in the 6th century, the entire landscape of East Asian Buddhism experienced exactly that. So welcome to AI Buddhism University, where we unpack the complex philosophies and, honestly, the crazy historical dramas of East Asian Buddhism.
It's great to be here.
Today, our mission is to explore a text that acts as the absolute bedrock of this entire intellectual tradition. It's the Treatise on the Awakening of Faith, or in Japanese, the Daijo Kishinron.
Such a massively important text.
It really is. Okay,
Yeah.
Let's unpack this, because Buddhist philosophy can seem, incredibly intimidating from the
Oh,
outside.
absolutely. It gets dense.
Right. But I promise you, the journey we are taking today is full of massive historical conspiracies, brilliant psychological frameworks, and some truly mind-bending aha moments you can actually apply to your own mind.
Yeah, it really is a phenomenal text to dig into. And to give you a sense of just how critical the Daijo Kishinron is, I mean, think about that smartphone operating system analogy you just used.
Yeah, the OS running in the background.
Exactly.
Yeah.
When you look at East Asian Mahayana Buddhism today, you see a lot of different applications, let's say. You have the rigorous seated meditation of Zen, right?
Right.
And the devotional chanting of Pure Land, or the incredibly complex cosmic interconnectedness of Hua-yen. They all look wildly different on the surface.
Totally different user interfaces, basically.
The perfect way to put it. But underneath all those distinct applications, they are running on the exact same fundamental philosophical operating system. The Treatise on the Awakening of Faith is that core OS.
So it's the invisible software architecture running in the background of almost everything we think of as East Asian Buddhism today.
Exactly. It provided the ultimate framework for how all these traditions understand the actual mechanics of the human mind.
Wow.
But, and this is a big but, the history of this text, the story of how it actually came to be, completely clashes with what the tradition has officially claimed for, well, over a millennium.
Yeah, I was looking over the notes on the translation timeline before we started, and things just don't seem to add up.
You caught that. Yeah. Officially, the tradition states that this monumental treatise was written by the legendary Indian monk and philosopher Ashvaghosa.
Or Memyo in Japanese, right?
Right, Memyo. And supposedly, it was translated into Chinese by the famous monk Paramartha, or Tendai, during the 6th century in the Liang dynasty.
Okay, so that's the official story.
Yes. For centuries, this was just accepted fact. It had the ultimate pedigree. But modern, really rigorous textual research has revealed a startling plot twist.
Here we go.
There is absolutely no original Sanskrit or Tibetan version of this text anywhere.
Wait, none? Like in the entire historical record?
None. Zero. The linguistic structure of the Chinese, the specific philosophical debates it references, the way it frames certain concepts, it all points to a singular, undeniable conclusion.
Which is?
It is highly likely a Chinese forgery, what scholars call a Gikyo.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it was almost certainly authored in secret by some anonymous genius somewhere in the northern dynasty of China.
Wait, so you're telling me this huge, important cornerstone textbook, and the author is basically a mystery forgery novel?
I know, right? That is exactly what I'm telling you.
That is insane. Millions of practitioners using an OS written by a ghost.
It is. But we have to look closely at the why, because this wasn't some scam artist trying to build a cult of personality or make a quick buck.
Right, there had to be a reason.
This Gikyo was born out of a profound, desperate philosophical necessity. The era in which this text appeared was basically being torn apart by a massive ideological civil war.
Over what, exactly? Because usually when Buddhist scholars are fighting, it's about the fundamental mechanics of salvation, right?
Precisely. It was a supposedly unresolvable conflict regarding the true nature of the human mind. You had two massive concepts colliding.
Okay, lay them out for us.
On one side, you had the proponents of Yoraizu, or Tathagatagarbha. This is the doctrine of the pure, innate Buddha nature.
So the idea that we're already pure.
Exactly. It argues that deep down, at your absolute core, your mind is already perfectly pure, radiant, and enlightened.
Okay.
The stakes here are ontological. They're claiming your fundamental nature is already a Buddha.
Which sounds beautiful. I mean, really nice. But I can see the immediate problem there.
Oh, what's that?
If I am already perfectly pure, why do I have road rage? Like, why is there so much suffering and cruelty in the world?
Right. And that is exactly where the other faction came in. Coming from a totally different translation lineage, you had the concept of the Araya-shiki.
Also known as the Alaya Vijana, right?
Yes, the storehouse consciousness. This was a phenomenological model. It argued that the base of your mind is a muddy, reactive storage unit.
Storage unit.
Yeah, one that basically hoards every single karmic seed, every trauma, every habit, and every defilement you've ever experienced.
Yikes. So one faction says, you are a perfect, glowing diamond.
Right.
And the other side says, you are a muddy hard drive full of viruses.
That's a great way to put it.
Because if you follow the Araya-shiki model, Enlightenment sounds like it would take 1,000,000 lifetimes of painfully deleting bad files.
Oh, absolutely.
But if you follow the Neurism model, you just have to, wake up to what's already there.
Exactly. And the tension between these two views was paralyzing the community. How do you reconcile a mind that is fundamentally pure with a mind that is a messy, karmic dumping ground?
You really can't, logically.
Right. And a local Chinese monk couldn't just invent a new theory and expect these deeply entrenched Indian philosophical lineages to listen to him.
So they needed a big name.
They needed the ultimate appeal to authority. By forging the text and slapping the name of the ancient Indian master Ashvaghosa on it, this anonymous author forced everyone to look at his genius synthesis.
Okay, that makes perfect sense historically. You need the big name to get the software installed on the hardware.
Exactly.
But how exactly did the code work? Like, how do you miraculously unite the pure diamond and the muddy hard drive?
It all comes down to the central philosophical mechanism of the text. It's called one mind, two gates, or Ishin Nimon.
Ishin Nimon. Okay.
The treatise proposes that the human mind, the one mind, operates in two completely different modes simultaneously.
Two modes at the same time. Break down the mechanics of that for me.
Sure. So the first mode is the Shinyomon, the gate of mind as suchness.
Suchness.
Yes. This is the perspective of the ultimate, unchanging, absolute, pure truth. In this mode, the mind is infinite, tranquil, and totally free of any conceptual distinction.
Okay, so that accommodates the pure Nyoraizu idea, the diamond.
Precisely. And the second mode handles the messy stuff. This is the Shimetsumon, the gate of mind as birth and death.
Birth and death sounds chaotic.
It is. This is the fluctuating reactive mode of creation and destruction. This is the mind of our everyday experience.
The one that gets anxious in traffic.
Exactly. The mind that gets anxious forms attachments and stores karma. So this accommodates the muddy Araya-shiki.
Okay, I'm following.
The huge breakthrough of the treatise is stating that these aren't two different minds. They're the exact same mind, just viewed through two different gates.
To make sure I'm wrapping my head around this, is it like the same computer hardware running two completely conflicting software programs at once?
That's close, but the text actually provides a much more organic and really famous metaphor to explain how the absolute and the conditional interact.
Oh, what's the metaphor?
It uses the simile of water and waves. Imagine the essence of the mind, that absolute suchness, is pure water.
Okay, pure water.
But then the wind of delusion, what the text calls ignorance or Memyo, starts blowing across the surface.
Oh, I see.
Right. And because the wind is blowing, the surface of the water gets turbulent and crashes into waves.
Oh, I love that. So the choppiness, the crashing waves, that
Yeah.
is the birth and death mode.
Yes, exactly.
It's all the drama and suffering of our everyday lives. But even when the surface is violently choppy, the chemical composition of the water hasn't actually changed.
Not one bit.
Even when it's a terrifying 50-foot wave, water is still fundamentally water.
You nailed it. That is exactly it. The wetness, the fundamental nature of the water never changes, whether it is completely still like a mirror or crashing down in a storm.
That's amazing.
The wave and the water are fundamentally not two. And the Japanese term for this non-duality is funi.
Funi.
Yeah. Your ultimate nature, the Shinyomon, is never actually compromised by the waves of the Shimetsuman.
Okay, that concept of funi is profoundly comforting on a theoretical level, but I'm going to push back here a little bit.
Go for it.
Because it leaves a massive practical loophole. If my mind is inherently pure water, that's great, but right now, in my everyday life, I feel like I'm drowning in a hurricane.
We all do.
Right. Knowing water doesn't stop the drowning. What is the actual mechanical process to stop the wind?
That is the crucial question. And it brings us right to the psychological core of the treatise, because the text isn't just abstract theory.
Thank goodness.
It provides a brilliantly practical mechanism to explain how we change our minds over time and calm those waves. It introduces a process called perfuming.
Perfuming.
Yes, or Kunju in Japanese.
What exactly are we perfuming?
The psyche itself. Kunju relies on the historical practice of an aroma slowly staining a piece of clothing over time.
Oh, like incense.
Exactly. In ancient times, to scent your clothes, you would drape them over a bamboo frame and burn incense underneath. Slowly, over hours and days, the smoke permeates the innocent fabric until it naturally holds that scent.
Okay, I'm tracking.
The treatise argues that our minds work the exact same way. It is a very early, very elegant model of neuroplasticity and habituation.
Wow.
We're constantly being perfumed by our actions, our thoughts, and our environment.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting, because I have a very modern, everyday metaphor for this that I think makes the mechanics perfectly
Yeah.
clear.
Oh, I want to hear this.
It's exactly like going to a Korean BBQ joint.
A Korean BBQ joint.
Hear me out. Have you ever spent 2 hours in one of those places grilling pork belly?
Oh, definitely. It gets smoky in there.
Right. You walk out and that deep, oily, smoky smell is completely embedded in your jacket, your hair, everything. It sticks to you whether you want it to or not.
It really does. You smell like garlic for days.
Exactly. So mapping this onto the philosophy, that heavy, lingering BBQ smell is our defilements, our bono.
Oh, I see where you're going with this.
It's all the greed, anger, and worldly attachments we've absorbed just by living in the world. To fix it, we have to light incense, which represents our Buddhist practice, our mindfulness, our compassion.
Yes.
And we deliberately overwrite that BBQ smoke with a good smell, which is enlightenment or satori.
That is a brilliant modern translation of the concept.
Yeah.
The Korean BBQ metaphor actually perfectly illustrates the specific mechanics the treatise uses.
Really?
Yeah, because in your scenario, the fabric of your jacket is entirely innocent.
Yeah.
Right? It just holds whatever scent it's exposed to.
Right, the jacket isn't inherently garlic flavored.
Exactly. And the treatise uses 3 specific terms to explain this exact process of overriding the smell of Bunno.
Okay, walk me through how the text breaks that down.
First, we have Hongaku. This translates to inherent enlightenment. This is the pure fabric of your jacket. It is the deep, pure water.
Hongaku. Got it.
The text argues that every single human being possesses Hongaku naturally. However, because we live in a chaotic world and are constantly bombarded by the Korean BBQ smoke of negative habits and ignorance,
Gabonu.
right, we're currently wandering in a state called fukaku.
Kukaku. Non-enlightenment.
Yes.
The state of smelling like grilled meat and being tossed around by the waves.
That's it. In fukaku, we are deeply conditioned or perfumed by our bono. But because the Arayashiki, that storehouse consciousness, is just a storage unit, habituation works both ways.
So can learn good habits, too.
Exactly. You can feed it good seeds just as easily as the bad ones. By constantly, deliberately perfuming our minds with the good incense of Buddhist practice, we slowly overwrite the bad smell.
Right.
And as we do this, we engage in an active process called shigaku.
How does shigaku differ from the inherent enlightenment, the hongaku, that we already have?
Good question. Shigaku is actualizing awakening. It is the moment-by-moment active process of making your inherent enlightenment a lived reality.
Oh, I see.
This is crucial, though. You aren't creating a new enlightenment from scratch. You are simply clearing away the bad smell so your natural, pure state can finally shine through.
That makes total sense.
Through Kunju, through constant positive perfuming, the active practice of shigaku eventually merges completely with your innate hongaku. You finally realize the pure water was there the entire time.
It is a remarkably empowering framework, you know? It explains why sitting in meditation or practicing mindfulness actually works.
It gives it a real mechanical foundation.
Yeah. Every time you catch yourself reacting with anger and choose patience instead, you are literally changing the scent of your mind.
Beautifully said.
Your worst habits and deepest traumas. I mean, they feel terribly permanent, but they are just smells on a jacket. They are just wind on the water. You can actively perfume your way out of the storm.
It is immensely practical for the everyday practitioner. And that is exactly why this text, despite being a total forgery, completely conquered East Asian philosophy.
It actually worked.
It did. It solved the intellectual crisis of the pure versus muddy mind, and it gave people a concrete roadmap for practice.
So after this rogue operating system was released into the wild, how did it actually shape the intellectual dynasty that followed? Like, who took this OS and built the specific apps we know today?
Well, it exploded across the continent and attracted the most brilliant commentators of the age. In China, you had the legendary monk Fazang.
Or Huzhu in Japanese.
Yes. He took the one mind, two gates framework and used it to construct the staggering philosophical architecture of the Hua-yen school.
Which is all about interconnectedness, right?
Right. Hua-yen is all about the infinite interconnectedness of the universe, the idea that every single phenomenon reflects every other phenomenon. Faison used the treatise to prove how the absolute suchness can manifest as the infinite variety of the physical world.
And it crossed borders very quickly, right?
Absolutely. In Korea, the towering figure of Wonyo, or Gangyo, wrote a massive, highly influential commentary on the treatise.
Gangyi.
Yeah. At the time, Korean Buddhism was heavily fractured by sectarian disputes. Everyone was fighting. Wonyo used the treatise to harmonize them.
How so?
He brilliantly argued that all the fighting sects were simply looking at different gates of the exact same one mind. It became the ultimate tool for intellectual peace.
Wow. And then, of course, the code makes its way to Japan.
Yes, it shaped the entirety of the Japanese Buddhist landscape. The founders of the Tendai school, Zen, Pure Land, they all studied this text.
It's everywhere.
It really became the fundamental grammar of awakening. When a Zen master talks about realizing your true original face, or a Pure Land practitioner talks about the deep mechanics of entrusting themselves to the Buddha,
They're using the OS.
the conceptual architecture they are standing on was drafted in the Daijo Kishinron.
It is wild to think about. An anonymous writer in the Northern Dynasty trying to solve a localized intellectual civil war ends up writing the foundational software for over 1,000 years of international religious thought.
It's incredible.
It really brings us full circle back to the core title of the text, the Treatise on the Awakening of Faith, or Kishin.
Yes, Kishin. And we really have to understand faith carefully here.
How do you mean?
Well, in a typical Western context, faith often means believing in something you cannot empirically see, or maybe assenting to a specific dogma.
Right, blind faith.
Exactly. But in the context of this treatise, awakening a heart of faith is something entirely different. It is about cultivating a profound, unshakable trust in the architecture of your own mind.
A trust in the Hongaku.
Yes. It is the deep realization that the pure water, the Hongaku, is already within you. Faith here is simply trusting that the wetness of the water hasn't vanished just because the waves are terrifyingly high.
I love that. So what does this all mean? We've covered a massive historical forgery, the mechanics of water and waves, and the psychological perfuming of Korean BBQ.
We really covered a lot.
We did. We've seen how one text managed to unite the pure diamond and the muddy hard drive of the human psyche.
Truly a genius synthesis.
But if we take this profound philosophy back to your life, right now, I want to leave you with a final thought to mull over.
Let's hear it.
If our inherent nature is already pure and enlightened, if that Hongaku is always sitting there quietly underneath all the noise, does the messy, chaotic BBQ smell of our everyday struggles actually give the incense of our practice its meaning?
Oh, that's an interesting thought.
Think about it. If the water was completely flat and perfectly still forever, we might not even possess the contrast required to realize it's there.
Right, we take it for granted.
Exactly. Maybe, just maybe, without those choppy, agonizing waves of birth and death, without the turbulence of our defilements, we would never truly appreciate the quiet, profound depths of the water beneath. The storm might not just be a nuisance.
What might it be?
It might be the exact mechanism we need to finally recognize the peace.
That is a beautiful paradox. The waves are precisely what teach us about the water.
Exactly. Finally, we have a brief apology and a request. Here at AI Buddhism University, we try our best to minimize the mispronunciation of complex Buddhist terminology. But due to the limitations of AI technology, some occasional errors might slip through. Please forgive us. If you have any advice on how to improve the AI's pronunciation, we would love to borrow your wisdom, so please let us know in the comments. We will continue to cover fascinating topics like biographies of great monks, sutra explanations, and the hidden history of Buddhism, so we're also waiting for your topic requests in the comments. If you enjoyed this episode, please don't forget to subscribe and hit the like button. We'll see you in the next explanation. Thank you for listening.